Welcome to Richard and Greg, a channel dedicated to discussion, debate and argument on a whole array of topics. In today's video, we speak about a proposed Biden presidency and ask, will it invoke more Wokism and potentially fall into not just socialism, but also perhaps quasi communism? Well, let's discuss this with Greg. Well, welcome to Richard and Greg. It's the 24th of November 2020, and the time is just shy of 11:30 GMT. Interesting headlines during the course of the evening, and that is President Trump has either authorized, or the officer in charge has authorized, the GSA to commence discussions with the Biden team and make funding available for a potential transition and ultimate handover to President-elect Joe Biden. Of course, the legal actions are still continuing, and so nothing is absolutely definitive. However, more and more Republicans are now coming out, more or less admitting that Biden should be made president on the 20th of January 2021. But that's not the basis of today's discussion with Greg. It's what if? What if Biden does succeed and becomes the president of the United States? What does this mean for political correctness, freedom of speech, and wokeism? And it's this particular subject that I wish to cover with Greg today. So without further ado, Greg, good morning.
Good morning. And it is a good morning because at long last, America is moving forward again.
Wokism, Greg, and the Biden agenda. What does this mean for that particular controversial area? Are we now going to enter a realm of supreme political correctness?
I don't think at the end of the day, any responsible government will be in a position to move that far towards political correctness. Though I appreciate that the lack of political correctness over the last 4 years has been marked. And I believe that Biden has flagged up the dangers of a failure to address certain areas of political correctness. I've got a feeling that he will be playing it down a fair bit as he now moves forward. However, there is no doubt that his appointments to date all tend to fall into the realms of political correctness, which is unusual for a group of people who are, as you will have noticed, in the main, far from young. Usually by that stage in life, they have, in my opinion, approached a greater degree of responsibility and realism. We have Antony Blinken. He's middle of the road age group as Secretary of State. He has been around in the Democratic Party, is well known, and has held for appointments earlier in his career during the period of both Clinton and Obama. Then we have Alessandro Mayorkas, who interestingly came to America as a refugee seeking sanctuary with his family as a youngster, and has now moved into the position of Secretary of Homeland Security, where it will be his responsibility to ensure the sanctuary of those who come to the country seeking sanctuary and the security of the people, the indigenous peoples of America. Then Avril Haines, Director of National Intelligence. It will be, from my point of view, and I appreciate I am more than a little biased, interesting to see intelligence restored. Let's see how she makes out in that role. I know little of her. Linda Thomas Greenfield, on the other hand, has been a part of the American government for a considerable time. And as I recall, she was Obama's envoy to diplomatic role, envoy regarding Africa. She is to be the new US ambassador to the United Nations, which sounds quite a good appointment, unless she gets bogged down in political correctness, and though I doubt she will be taken in by the Marxism of big areas of that political correctness. Jake Sullivan is one of the younger appointments as National Security Advisor, the last one of which I know so far. They've taken John Kerry out and dusted him off for a rerun. He, you will remember, was a presidential candidate at one stage and has held office in previous administrations. He is to get what I would consider something of an on-job, special presidential envoy for climate. He isn't going to have much to do, is he, since climate change just moves on. And I note the press has reported yesterday that central India has had the coldest October for a very long time, and that the day before yesterday was the coldest day registered in November in central India for some 48 to 50 years. So I wonder what's happened to all this global warming. And I also wonder if John Kerry will have the courage to wade into the Greens, whose policies on failure to clear the forests in California for so many years led to some of the worst fires on record, mainly due to the amount of detritus and the number of times that in the interim years that they have put out forest fires that should have been allowed to burn off the rubbish and rejuvenize the forest. So I wonder where he's going with this group. A very mixed group, but all what I would classify as safe appointments. There seems little that is innovational amongst them.
Well, you've also missed, Greg, Janet Yellen as Treasury Secretary. And she was, as we all know, at one stage, the chair of the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
So how do you see that panning out?
I think much tighter control on money.
Mm-hmm.
I think she has the experience in the field. Therefore, we will probably have a rather more stable ride for the dollar. I don't think it bodes well for those who are gambling on precious metals, but we shall see. She may have a different opinion now that she is in charge of the situation than when she was a servant of the Fed.
Okay, well, let's go back because we've drifted somewhat to Wokism. What's your definition of Wokism? And why do you think most parties of the left seem to be fascinated with the desire to change the use of our language and the use of our terminology, to adopt some form of, some would say, 1984 type agenda? Why do you think Biden will not succumb to that, bearing in mind the influences that the left will have on his presidency?
I think for at least the first couple of years, he is going to have a fairly large job firefighting, in the non-literal term, to patch up the great divisions that have opened up within the American society. And I don't think Wokism is going to be adequate. It is merely a band-aid to cover things up. It makes people of the left look as if they're being trendy. Usually when you investigate, they're merely being foolish or being manipulated by hidden puppet masters. I could be contentious and name several instances of that, but let's leave that for another closer look at the specific dangers of wokeism, which I see as all too closely allied to Marxism and all too closely supported by Marxism as a means of dividing and damaging the civilizations of the Western world and the very structures that keep the Western world moving forward for the benefit of its peoples. I think it's in real terms, we are going to see a great deal of noise probably in terms of climate, but very little realistic action. Coal and nuclear power are the bedrock of energy for the world. They are what have brought the world to where it is today, where a higher percentage of the people are better off than ever in history, where we support a massively increased population, and we do so with less starvation, though a fair amount of warfare in various areas, but that seems to be an omnipresent part of human condition. It would be nice to see it controlled, but whilst large tracts of the world, like America, make their living out of producing armament, it is hardly surprising the world are buying that armament with a view to increasing their prosperity by suppressing other people. It is a vaguely mad construct, but countries like Britain, America, France are utterly dependent on their armament production as an integral part of their GDP and the living standards of their people. I think we will hear a great deal about how we must look at green energy in order to pacify what I consider to be the extreme and lunatic Green Brigade, who have done nothing for mankind to date, except cause huge taxes in various areas. Wokism underpins their, really, in my opinion, rather foolish world. You have to look at climate change and actually realize that it's nothing to do with mankind. Our climate has been driven for 4.5 billion years by the sun, and we aren't going to be able to compete with that. And at the moment, we have one of the lowest periods of sunspots, and we are quite clearly slowly moving into a mini ice age.
Okay, Greg, bearing in mind that Joe Biden, if and when he becomes president, will have such pressure placed upon him from the left-wingers in his party, who've already come out in recent days basically warning him that he must fulfill his promises, which is code for do what you told us you would do, otherwise we would not have supported you. How can he avoid not adopting not just a marginally left-wing, but perhaps a serious left-wing socialist, quasi-communist, Marxist agenda?
It's going to be very difficult for him, especially since he's appointed so far as I can see, no innovative strongmen to his inner circle. There is time yet for that to happen, but there seems little indication of it. He will find that Kamala Harris will be something of an ally in that direction, as she is without a doubt what classifies as a strongman in politics, with her very sound record as a public prosecutor. But let's look at woke itself. It may interest you to know that not only is this a slang that emanated from the Black American community, who put their own trendy meaning on it, but one of the urban dictionaries, in my opinion rightly, gives it as the act of being very pretentious about how much you care about social issues. I see it as a total non-event personally, but I am not black and I am not an American. It's invented as a form of groupthink about which one must constantly virtue signal. Much of what is hidden under the cloak of woke is just destructive, divisive, and in many ways seriously unpleasant. I don't believe that underneath surface need to virtue signal in order to get adequate votes to be elected, that the people around Biden and Biden himself can possibly be so stupid as to believe in the basic concepts of woke, which are issued on the world, as you say, as a Marxist, quasi-communist agenda to divide, damage, and inculcate intergroup hatred, whether that's racial or whether it's regarding gender or sexuality or any other new contrivance. Mankind has existed without these problems for centuries. I think we will find that wokeism will blow up in the face of anyone who pushes it too far at this stage. I have every expectation and every hope, and I stress hope, that this rather foolish period of divisive, destructive wokeism will naturally die over the next few years. I think that Biden is going to be so engrossed in trying to heal the scars in society, he's not going to have the headroom to be able to go forward with the politically correct agenda, which at the end of the day pleases nobody.
Well, Greg, I sincerely hope you're right. Thank you so much for your contribution today, and no doubt we'll touch base later in the week.
There's always that danger. I look forward to it.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if so, kindly subscribe to our channel and press the bell sign so that you are notified of our videos as and when they are published. And also in the description box below, we place links to certain books, articles, and programs which you may find of benefit, and for which we will receive a small commission should you purchase through our link. And this will help support our channel and to enable us to develop it further.